for improvement. Okay, I have just 47 students with me, but anyway, we'll start. So we were referring to the concept of voids, specifically in the case of your FCC structure. FCC structure as such happens to be an interesting one and of importance to us, because we have said that most of your engineering materials, metals to be specific, they actually are either BCC, FCC or HCP. So BCC, FCC, HCP, they carry very significant for especially for mechanical engineers from a material science point of view. The concept of voids has been explained. I will try to explain it, the octahedral voids as well as tetrahedral voids. The significance of this, I will explain it today, that what is the physical significance, what is the actual engineering significance. Means these are not merely theoretical concepts, they actually are helpful to us in experimentation, in understanding the basic engineering properties of materials. So we will see that today with the help of one example. I will take the example of steel, which happens to be an alloy of iron and carbon. Steel is of importance to us because in the case of steel, carbon atoms are actually occupying the interstitial voids. Steel is also of interest to me because iron happens to be having an allotropic form. Allotropic transformation means the iron that you have, it can have a BCC structure at room temperature, whereas it goes to FCC at around 910 degrees centigrade. We have elaborated this when we talked about various types of lattices. I hope you have. I hope you remember that. In my last class, we explained that in the case of octahedral voids, this is where the first point where the octahedral voids are located means at the center of the unit cell, and the second location where you find the octahedral voids are there is at the edge of the each cell. Sorry, all the edges of the unit cell. So we try to explain it this way, that okay, this is one here, and bottom is this way. So this is the second location of the what we call as the octahedral void. So octahedral voids are, as I said, at the center of the unit cell, if you take it here, as well as at all the edges of the cube. We already explained it yesterday, and I explained it with the help of this diagram also. I hope it is going by the diagrams is easy for you to understand, because I try to animate to the extent possible, but PowerPoint has its own limitations. So that is why many times it's not possible to create animations, although I may desire to do that, but it's not possible for me. But still, I try to do that to the extent possible here. One of the problems which I will face when I start posting lectures on Classroom as well as YouTube is students don't attend classes. Doesn't matter. I'm not interested to teach those who are not interested to study. Time will teach them, and obviously time will teach them a very good lesson pretty soon when they appear for their exam, for their quizzes. So they will actually be interested to study then, at least to pass the exam. My aim is not to create that interest just to pass the exam. Your interest shall be to learn something. And obviously, if you are learning something, then you actually are interested to study also, interested to attend the class also. Okay, so this is what I told yesterday itself, that this is where the octahedral voids are located. The black ones which you see here this is for the center of the unit cell, whereas this is at the edges of the unit cell. So all the edges, like this edge as well as the other edges of the unit cell, they will all have the voids available to us. The size of the voids we have already elaborated. I will review that discussion in relation to iron iron and carbon today. We already said that octahedral voids are at the center and at the edges. This gives me 4 voids per unit cell, and there are obviously 4 atoms in a FCC cell, and that is why there is 1 void per atom in the case of FCC unit cell. This concept is very important for me to understand that when I say there is 1 octahedral void per atom. So if these are all iron atoms, maybe carbon atoms will be given in the interstitials, means for each iron atom there is a void available to accommodate at least 1 carbon atom. So whether that happens or not, we will see that. Okay, so this is just a representation of the same thing. You can get these things from Google also. When you go to net searching, you'll find these pictures available to you, although the animations that you see in the presentations, they are not as such available. You need to create them, and not a tough idea, not a tough one to do that. Okay, so this is where we see that you have the first one here as the tetrahedral voids, and this is one location of your octahedral voids which is shown here. Okay, can you now recall this figure, that if you are showing the unit cells here, and now I'm trying to show the octahedron with the help of something which we already have discussed. What is this? I'm referring to the octahedron here composed of these 8 planes of the 111 cubic family. So if you remember our discussion about the crystallographically equivalent planes, this is what I actually had drawn, and this is just the same representation. So if you treat this octahedron here, you can see that almost similar thing is happening here, that you can create an octahedron by these 111 planes. The importance of it we'll learn later. Okay, so this is one table which I used in my earlier classes, where we said that this is just the atomic radius. I am interested about carbon here, where the atomic radius is, these are approximate values, so some text will say it is 77 picometers, somewhere you will find 72 also. So approximate values around 77 picometers. And I am also interested about iron, which has around 124 picometers. So this goes to 0.7 angstroms, and this goes to 0.72 or 0.73. This goes to 1.24 angstroms. So why I'm interested about that? Because I want to now discuss something about the location of these carbon atoms in the interstitials of the FCC lattice of iron. But the problem is that iron is actually having a BCC lattice also. At room temperature, you have iron in BCC structure, and it is possible for us to find out the size of the octahedral and tetrahedral voids in BCC also. I am leaving that because it will take too much of time here. I will post a video if it is possible for me. It is with me, and I will try to post a video. But for the time being, if you concentrate upon this table, this is a summary which I have tried to create, although I will add more things to the summary in my next slide. So in your FCC lattice, we have seen that the octahedral voids are given by 0.41 times the radius of the atoms which are at the lattice points. Similarly, the tetrahedral voids are 0.225 times the radius of the atoms which are at the main atoms there. But when I try to find so which one is larger? So in the case of your FCC lattice, we see the octahedral voids are larger. These are smaller. Whereas in the case of BCC structure, when you try to find out the location and then you find the size also by the similar method, we find that the trend is opposite. Now the tetrahedral voids are larger and the octahedral voids are smaller. There's one more contradiction which we observe here. Can anyone tell me that what is another contradiction that you observe here between FCC and BCC as well as the void size is concerned? Harleen Kaur.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in the case of FCC structure, we understand that the octahedral voids are larger. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
And the BCC structure, the tetrahedral voids are larger. Although on absolute terms, which one is larger? FCC voids are larger than the BCC voids. Can I say that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So voids in FCC are larger than voids in BCC. So does it create a contradiction in our studies? Which one? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Out of BCC and FCC, which one is more closely packed?
So FCC.
Yes, we understand that FCC happens to be more closely packed. Is it? Because
Yes,
it
sir.
has an APF of
74%.
0.74.
Yes, sir.
So we say that on packing factor side, FCC happens to be a close packed one. So we also call it as CCP, cubic close packed structure. Whereas this question tells me that when I calculate the void size, the void sizes are also larger in FCC, although it is actually closely packed. That's right. So there is a contradiction here. General science will tell me that if because FCC are more closely packed, that is why the void size shall be smaller. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
But it is opposite. It is opposite. The void size is also larger in the case of FCC void. So in the case of FCC structure, the voids are larger as compared to the BCC crystal structure. If I consider R to be same, I can consider R to be same in the case of our this allotropic transformation, where this transformation for iron takes place. So I can say R is that for iron atoms, and iron atoms are approximate value of R for iron atoms happens to be 1.24 angstroms. So this is as far as the tabulated values are concerned, and this table tells me the same thing, that we are comparing the BCC and FCC octahedral and void sizes. So we are saying that it is the same one. So the FCC void, octahedral void, is larger than any of the voids in the BCC system here. And this column here tells me the radius of this void in the case of when the atoms are iron. So radius in terms of iron in angstroms. So when I consider the radius, the main atoms in the FCC lattice or in the BCC lattice to be that of iron, Fe, when these lattice point atoms are Fe atoms, in that case, the radius of these largest sphere which can fit into the voids created because in these iron atoms happens to be given by this size. This is the size of atoms. This is the size of the largest radius which can be accommodated in it. When the main atoms, the lattice point atoms, are Fe atoms. So what is the largest angstrom size which can be accommodated? Can you see?
Yes, 0.51.
0.51 angstrom. So the largest sphere which can fit into the octahedral cavity of iron when it is in FCC crystal structure happens to be that of 0.151 angstroms. Whereas carbon atoms, which we say they fit into that, they have a atomic radius of 0.71 angstrom. So they are larger, right?
Yes, sir.
They are larger. So that is why we find that most of them will not be accommodated, and even if they are accommodated, they will produce strain in the lattice. We explained it yesterday very simply that if you have a smaller area available, some smaller volume available here, and if I put a larger sphere in it, the surrounding spheres will be strained. Surrounding one will be strained. So this will put a strain there. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, why I am referring to iron and carbon? Because iron as such has both the crystal structures. It is available to us in FCC as well as your BCC system. So both ways it is available to us, FCC as well as BCC. That means that when you are heating iron, what is happening?
So, it's changing its structure.
Changing the structure. Oh, that is clear. Okay. Harnoor Singh Sandhu.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at room temperature, iron is in BCC. ये ठीक है?
Sir,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Is it right? At room
Sir,
temperature,
याद नहीं सर अभी.
याद नहीं तो मैं बता देता हूँ.
Yes, sir.
पूछ नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं बता रहा हूँ. At
Yes,
room
sir.
temperature, iron is in BCC structure. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I want to create. I have steel with me, which is nothing but iron plus a non-metal carbon which has been added into it.
Yes, sir.
So iron has a BCC structure which is available to me at room temperature. Now I want to add carbon, a non-metal, into it to create what we refer to as steel.
Yes, sir.
This is your let us say BCC iron, which we say is known as alpha iron. Alpha
Yes.
iron. So where will these carbon atoms go? Which have now, we already know that the carbon atoms have an atomic radius of 0.71 angstroms. So they will go into the interstitial. Is it right?
Yes.
So what is the largest interstitial site available to me in BCC?
So 0.37.
The size of that largest interstitial happens to be 0.37,
Yes, sir.
which is your tetrahedral one, and the octahedral one is 0.19. So जो carbon है ये किसमें जाएगा?
Sir, tetrahedral.
It will try to go into that site which is larger, and try to fit into that. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
So iron at room temperature, when you have steel, you have alpha alpha iron available to me at room temperature, and we say that is you put carbon into that, and carbon goes into the tetrahedral voids which are available in the BCC lattice. Now you start heating it.
Yes, sir.
And you go beyond 910 degrees centigrade. So what will happen now?
So
There will be an allotropic transformation from BCC to
FCC.
FCC. So now not many things will change. The iron atoms will also reoccupy different positions. Now we have already explained it, that what will happen to the volume of this and volume of the iron and the density of iron. But I will not go into there. So we say now it has gone into FCC crystal structure. The
Yes,
carbon
sir.
atoms were still there. निकाले तो है नहीं आपने. You have just heated it.
Yes, sir.
So whatever carbon atoms were there, they were either going into the interstitial, or they were just as such available outside. They were not going into it. Carbon as was available as carbon. It was not soluble in iron. So either there are two possibilities. You can put carbon into iron, it will be soluble in iron, and some compound will be formed.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
ferrite is formed. Or you may keep on adding carbon, it will not be soluble in iron. So you will have carbon separately available to you, and iron and some compound is separately available to you.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Now you have heated iron, so it goes into the FCC lattice. So
Yes,
the
sir.
void size is now larger. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Now which voids are larger?
Sir, here octahedral.
Here the octahedral voids are larger, 0.51. So what will now happen to the carbon? The carbon which was there in the tetrahedral interstitials when it was BCC room temperature will now shift to
Octahedral.
tetrahedral voids. and these voids are larger. Is it right? So there will be less lattice strain. Means the probability of filling up these voids is larger now, and that is why the solubility of carbon in iron increases when you increase the temperature. The maximum solubility of iron weight percentage happens to be around 2.1%. It's 2.1%. We shall be able to calculate it today. This is the maximum solubility of iron, carbon in iron in weight percentage, not atomic percentage. We are saying it is weight percentage.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nitish Gupta. Nitish Gupta. Nitish Gupta. Shivam Sani.
Yes, sir.
So, did you understand what I said lastly?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is the same slide which I used now earlier in my two, 3 lectures ago when we talked about this transformation of iron which happens at 912. We have
Yes, sir.
calculated there that because the packing fraction changes, the APF changes, the unit cell size changes, the number of atoms in the unit cell changes, and that is why we find that the volume occupied per atom in the case of BCC is 0.12 nanometers cube, and for FCC it happens to be 0.011 nanometer cube.
Yes, sir.
Which tells me that the volume of iron on heating, will it decrease or increase?
Volume of atoms, sir, decrease.
Volume of volume of iron when it is heated at this 912 degrees centigrade, when this transformation from alpha to gamma iron is taking place, so you're going from alpha to gamma, at this transformation, the volume of iron decreases. And what happens to the density then?
So density will increase.
Density will increase because the inverse relationship here. So if you
Yes.
see the plot here, this is how it looks like. This is very old data which I'm using, somewhere from 1966, published by Hume and Rodri. So we will use these Hume-Rodri rules today in our discussion on alloys. So what we see here is that this is what is happening when the temperature is increasing here. So we find that there is a sharp dip here at
Yes.
this 912 degrees. This is volume per atom in angstrom cube. So we find here that this is a dip here, and I already told you that you can actually measure this temperature because for pure iron it happens to be at 912, whereas for steel, when you keep on alloying it, this keeps on changing. And for any composition, you can actually try to find out by plotting this curve. Wherever this sharp dip is there, we say that is the transformation temperature for steel. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I sum up the same thing now, but with some added information. Can you see on your screen? So this information is now again for voids for both your structures. So you have the BCC iron and the FCC iron. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
And we have given the size of the voids. And
Yes, sir.
what I have added is the number of voids also I have added. For your FCC, I have explained it already in my last class. For BCC, we will do it, but you can take the values as such for the time being. So in the case of FCC structure here, which you observe, the size of the octahedral void is larger, and
Yes, sir.
there are 4 of them in unit cell, means 1 void per atom. Is it? Similarly,
Yes, sir.
tetrahedral voids are smaller, 8 per atom, 8 per cell, and 2 per atom. When I talk about BCC lattice, now for BCC lattice here, BCC crystal structure, we find that the tetrahedral voids, they are larger, so it is opposite. Here the octa was larger, here the tetra is larger. And their number is also more. So you have 12 of them per cell, and there are 2 atoms in this unit cell. There are 4 atoms in this unit cell, and that is why per atom it is 6. And Octahedral voids, there are 6 of them in BCC, and which comes to 3 per atom. Is it clear?
Yes,
As
sir.
far as the data is concerned, although as I said, I have not explained it, we have not derived it. But as far as the data is concerned, does it convey the data clearly?
Sorry, sir.
Is the data clearly visible to you and understandable what we are writing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the same thing which I showed you yesterday. Now this I have taken from again a published literature from 1962, where we find that you have the FCC voids shown here and the BCC, both octahedral voids have been shown. We already explained this in our class. So you have an octahedral void at the center of the unit cell, as well as now you have the second octahedral void at one of the edges, and at all the edges of the unit cell of a FCC crystal structure, you have the octahedral voids. Okay. So we understand that as iron undergoes a transformation from alpha to gamma at 912 degrees, there is a change from BCC to FCC lattice. The FCC lattice has larger voids, and that is why you can say that more number of carbon atoms can be accommodated into the what we say solution. So that is why the solubility of carbon increases. This is just a phase diagram. We will talk about these phase diagrams in detail when I go to this iron carbon system. This is just a phase diagram, just to give you an idea that what I'm referring to. Austenite is one term which we'll be referring to time and again in our discussion. So if you see, this is the temperature scale here. This is temperature. So below this 912 degrees, this is your 912 degrees, your transformation temperature for iron. You have alpha iron shown here, and the gamma iron is shown here in this region. After further heating, you have delta iron. Again, it goes to BCC. So you have the BCC as alpha. This is FCC as gamma. So BCC alpha is here, and this is gamma, which I say is FCC structure. The BCC structure again comes back at around 1400 degrees, and we say this is delta iron. The solubility of carbon is maximum somewhere here, around 2%. Whereas at room temperature, the solubility of carbon happens to be 0.022%. So the solubility of carbon in iron increases almost 100 times with the temperature. It goes to 2% here. This is 2%. This is 0.022%. One of the reasons for that happens to be because iron transforms from BCC to FCC. So you have larger octahedral voids which can actually accommodate more number of carbon atoms into them. Okay, so we will come to this discussion later, but right now this is sufficient for us to go forward. I will leave it. Okay. Now, this was the discussion. Once I said that, okay, there are only pure elements, pure metals. So you have only iron, only carbon, only aluminium. Then you had those lattices, BCC, FCC, putting into picture there. We have understood that. But now, since last few lectures, we have started moving from that towards voids, because I already said that we want to study voids because they are important for us for what we refer to as alloy formation. I will then now refer to a term known as imperfections in solids. So we said that there are two kinds of imperfections. One is intentional imperfections. This is what we say is known as alloying, that you have all iron atoms. Intentionally, I introduce carbon, a non-metal, into this. Still, somebody can say this is an impurity that I put in this iron lattice. I put carbon. So this carbon can be, somebody can say this is an impurity into it, but I have done it intentionally. If this is intentional, we say we are actually trying to create an alloy. Many times it may be unintentional, and then I will say it is an imperfection or an impurity. But almost for metals, we say pure metals are having properties which are not that useful to us. Like gold, when it is in pure form, it is very, very soft. Similarly for silver, when it is pure, it is very, very soft. You cannot make what you are, if you want to make utensils of silver, you cannot make it. So people talk about what we refer to as sterling silver. You may have heard about this. Sterling silver is nothing but silver plus copper. So you have added copper into silver there. Similarly, when you take gold, pure gold, you cannot make ornaments out of that. So you put some impurities like copper into it so that it improves certain properties. So we find here that mechanical properties of pure metals, they are altered a lot when the metals are alloyed. That is, when impurity atoms are added into it. So if I add into pure iron, this carbon, which I say can be treated as an impurity atom, you find that the properties are changed, are altered. They may be improved in many cases, in certain cases they may be deteriorated also, but we will talk about only improvement in properties by alloying. So we say that you can actually create alloys here. Another example is brass, which is nothing but 70% copper plus 30% zinc. Pure copper again has some problems. It is not hard, it is not strong, although it is a very good conductor of electricity, but the wires that you make must be able to sustain the load also. So that is why you alloy copper with something else. But brass is also an alloy which we say is of copper and zinc. It has better properties. So when I say alloys here, so when you are adding impurities knowingly into the pure metal, we say we are creating an alloy. And ordinarily, alloying is used in metals to improve the mechanical strength and maybe corrosion resistance or other properties. So you want to alter the properties. Alteration of properties is possible with the help of alloying. That's why we alloy that. Okay, so alloys, we will name them as solid solutions. So instead of we say alloys, I will better call them as solid solutions. On the same lines of a solution that you should see as a liquid solution, liquid plus solid solution. So when you talk about solutions, you are talking about two terms here, the solute and the solvent. So you're talking about two things here, solute and the solvent. Which one will have larger percentage? Rishabh Verma. Rishabh Verma.
Hello, sir. Yes, sir.
In the case of a solution, when you talk about solute and solvent, which one is having higher percentage?
Solvent, sir.
Solvent will have a higher percentage. If I say
Yes.
it is a solid solution, maybe steel is a solid solution, or I will say ferrite is a solid solution of iron plus carbon. So which one is the solvent here and which one is the solute?
Carbon will be the solute and iron will be the solvent.
Yes, carbon will be the solute because it is available to us in very small amount. Maybe 2% is the maximum value that you have, and iron will be your solvent. So in a solid solution, the solute atoms are added to the host material. The host material is what we are referring to as the solvent. The crystal structure normally is maintained and no new structures are formed. So the crystal structure of the solvent is maintained normally. There may be exceptions, but normally it is maintained. So alloys, you can call them as two types, solid solutions and compounds. So when I talk about a compound, the difference happens to be the compound will exist at a fixed composition. the compound will exist at a fixed composition. A simple example of it is cementite, Fe3C, or also known as iron carbide. Iron carbide, which is formed when you have 6.67% of carbon by weight added into iron. So when you add 6.7% of carbon by weight into iron, you form iron carbide, which we say is Fe3C, known as cementite. It is a compound because it is formed at this fixed composition only. If you alter the carbon percentage from 6.6 to 4, cementite will not be formed. A part of it will be cementite, but something else will also be formed. So we understand that compound is when the composition is fixed. Whereas when I say it's a solid solution, the variation of the composition is possible. Variation in the composition is possible, means you can keep on adding carbon, increasing from 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.4%, up to 2%, 3%. Still say it is a solid solution of iron and carbon because the composition is varying, but still a solid solution is available to us. So this is the basic difference between compound and a solid solution. So when I talk about a solid solution here, there are two types of it: substitutional and interstitial. So solid solution is a term which we normally use for alloys. So alloys, you can say, are of two types: substitutional alloy, substitutional solid solution types, and interstitial types. The example of substitutional type happens to be, which I already said, austenite, which is iron plus carbon at temperatures, normally temperatures greater than 912 degrees centigrade. Although you can have stable austenite even at lower temperatures by some methods, but when I say your normal phase diagram, iron carbon diagram, austenite is the solid solution of iron with carbon into it, and carbon, which type it is? It is an interstitial solid solution. So austenite happens to be an interstitial solid solution where the carbon atoms are occupying the which voids? FCC voids. Which voids are larger? Vishal Gulati. Vishal Gulati.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
when I say FCC structure, which voids were larger for FCC? Octahedral or tetrahedral?
Sir, tetrahedral.
For FCC.
Sir, octahedral.
अभी तो टेट्राहेड्रल बोल रहे थे, अभी ऑक्टाहेड्रल बोल रहे थे, दोनों में से कोई एक ही होगा आंसर, तो सही कौन सा है? अभी तो बता के हटे यार तुमको सारा कुछ, फिर भी तुमको समझ नहीं आ रहा तो फिर थोड़ा मुश्किल है मेरे लिए बताना. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
So in FCC lattice, which voids are larger?
Sir, tetrahedral.
FCC. स्क्रीन है तुम्हारे पास? फोन है कि कंप्यूटर है कि कुछ भी नहीं है, ऐसे ही बोल रहे हो?
फोन है सर.
अच्छा फोन है, उस पर कुछ दिख रहा है?
यस सर.
क्या दिख रहा है?
सर
फिगर में तो फिर
BCC
तुमको बोल तो तुम उल्टा रहे हो, अभी भी उल्टा बोल रहे हो, तो मेरे को लग रहा है या तो उल्टा दिख रहा है तुम्हारे फोन में, बी को एफ पढ़ते हैं शायद, ये भी फोन में कोई प्रॉब्लम है या नेटवर्क ने बीसीसी को एफसीसी कर दिया होगा, ये भी हो सकता है. So in the case of FCC lattice, which voids are larger? विशाल गुलाटी.
यस सर.
हाँ जी. FCC lattice में which voids are larger?
सर
स्क्रीन पे क्या दिख रहा है? कुछ टेबल दिख रहा है बना हुआ?
यस सर दिख रहा है।
पढ़ना शुरू करेंगे जरा, मैं ही बता देता हूँ। अब एबीसी पढ़ा देते हैं तुम्हें, एबीसी पढ़ लो चलो, और कुछ नहीं तो। राइट साइड में फिगर सा बना होगा, कुछ गोल गोल सा
Yes,
फिगर
sir.
बना है, वो समझ तो आएगा नहीं तुम्हें भी वो क्या है, बट स्टिल कुछ तो है वो। चलो, उसके नीचे कुछ लिखा है ऑक्टाहेड्रल वॉइड्स,
Yes, sir.
उसमें कुछ क्या लिखा है आगे पढ़िए जरा।
Sir, R is equal to 0.414 R,
414
capital R.
और टेट्राहेड्रल में
Sir, 225,
विच
0.225.
वन इज लार्जर?
Sir, 0.414.
तो अभी पहले तो तुम कुछ और बोल रहे थे। मटेरियल साइंस पढ़ना मुश्किल हो जाएगा, मैं थोड़ा सा आपको बार बार बता रहा हूँ। इट इज ए ट्रिकी कोर्स इफ यू डोंट पे अटेंशन। अभी एग्जाम तो मेरे को फिजिकली लग रहा होगा, बिकॉज मोस्ट प्रोबेबली द इंस्टीट्यूट्स में ओपन, आई एम नॉट श्योर, बट स्टिल I think they will wait for the opening and then conduct the exam. So please pay attention to the classes and start at least listening to what is being discussed. और किताब तो क्या पढ़ना है किसी ने, जो बता रहा हूँ वो भी नहीं कौन सुन रहा है, तो फिर तो it's very 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 difficult for me. There is no fun in teaching a class which is not interested. Anyway, चलिए कोई बात नहीं, होता है कभी, many a times it happens that you are lost somewhere. So we say austenite is a solid solution of carbon and iron, which normally exists at high temperature when iron is in an FCC structure and carbon is occupying the interstitial sites, which are octahedral type. Ferrite is again a solid solution of iron and carbon, same, but when iron is in BCC lattice, means this will be at temperatures lower than 912 degrees, or I can say at room temperature also, or room temperature or any temperature lower than 912, you will have ferrite, which will be a solid solution of iron and carbon, with carbon occupying the interstitial sites in the BCC lattice. Which one are larger? Opposite now. FCC, it was occupying the octahedral sites. In BCC, carbon will occupy the tetrahedral sites because they are larger. They are larger. So these are both examples of what we call as the interstitial type of solid solution. Whereas sterling silver, which we say is a alloy of silver and copper, both of them are having FCC crystal structure, is an example of the substitutional type of alloy. So this is an example of the substitutional type of alloy. The difference is that in the case of a substitutional alloy, the solute atoms will be replacing the solvent atoms located at the lattice points. They will not be accommodated in the voids, because one of the reasons will be the size of the solute atoms is comparably almost similar to the size of the solvent atom. That's what happens in the case of silver and copper. Whereas for iron and carbon, the difference is appreciable. Iron has a lattice, you can say, atomic radius of 1.24 angstroms, whereas carbon has an atomic radius of 0.07 angstroms, 0.071 angstroms. So this is what will be the difference. It will form interstitial, and silver and copper will form what we call as a substitutional alloy. So we already said that solid solutions, if there are interstitial type, the solute atoms will occupy the void spaces in the solvent atom. The example I have already given to you, but it will come up on your screen again, that austenite happens to be one example of this type of solid solution. And the other type of solid solution is substitutional, where the solute and the solvent atoms distribute over a given lattice site. So some of them will be occupied by the solvent, some of them will be occupied by the solute. So it will be, sterling silver is an example of that. when I now want to replace them, when I want to show them graphically, just a simple representation of solid solutions is that on the left side, what you observe is the interstitial solid solution, whereas on your right side, what you observe is the substitutional solid solution. So one of the conditions which is there is the radius of the solute atoms must be smaller than the solvent atom. And in the case of substitute, so this one is for substitutional ones, and this is representing your interstitial ones. So in the case of an interstitial alloy will be formed when the radius of the solute atom is smaller than the solvent atom. Whereas a substitutional alloy will be formed when the radius of the solute atom is comparable to that of the solvent atom. Then you'll have the second condition. So we explained it already that what happens in the case of austenite. It's a solid solution of carbon in gamma iron, where carbon is in the voids of FCC, the octahedral voids of FCC, which we have already elaborated in our discussion earlier, that where are those voids, what is the size of those voids. So we saw that in terms of your iron atom, the carbon atom has if its radius of 0.7, the void size, octahedral size happens to be 0.551 somewhere. So still the carbon atom is larger than the octahedral void size, but it is accommodated into it with some strain, whereas in the case of BCC, you have even this void size is even smaller, so less carbon atoms are accommodated into the solid solution. So this inflect the size of these atoms, the size of the voids also, they influence what we refer to as the solubility limits, solid solubility limits. How much of the solute is completely soluble in the solvent, just like water and sugar. So if you keep on putting sugar into water, a stage will come up to some value, you will find a syrup is formed. So you have a third phase generated here, syrup. Whereas after the particular value is reached, you will find that the solid, the sugar is separately visible to us. It is not mixing, it is not creating a new phase. Means now you are adding the solute, which is sugar there, more than the solubility limit of water. And in the case of water sugar solution also, it is observed that the solubility limit is temperature dependent. The solubility limit is pressure dependent also, but for the temperature dependence is very, very clear. So when you have hot water, you can put more sugar into that. Similarly, the same thing happens in this steel also, the solid solutions. As you increase the temperature of steel, the solubility of carbon increases from 0.022% in ferrite to around 2% in austenite. One of the reasons we explained already is the type of the voids and the size of the voids which are responsible for accommodating the carbon atoms in your iron lattice. So this is where your interstitials are located here in the case of solid solutions here. So you have the octahedral sites. This is just giving you the coordinates of that. So we have already known both of them are for F. This is for your FCC, and this one is for your BCC. So in the case of FCC lattice, the octahedral sites are located at the center and at the all edges. So the coordinates are given to you, and the tetrahedral and octahedral, yes. So they are given here for this. Okay. So we already defined what is called as a solid solubility limit, the maximum amount of solute that can be put into a solid solution. So we already explained that in the case of austenite, the upper limit on solubility of carbon is just 2%. That is, just 2% carbon can be dissolved into gamma iron. The rest of it will not get dissolved, it will be separately available to us as carbon. Whereas we have another system. So this one is a interstitial one, whereas the copper nickel system is another example of a substitutional solution. So one difference that you observe between interstitial and substitutional solutions is that the solubility limit. Most of your interstitial solid solutions will have limited solubility, whereas the substitutional ones can have unlimited solid solubility, means complete solubility. You can keep on adding them in any fashion, and then still they will keep on mixing with each other. Whereas in interstitial solutions, the solubility limit of the solute is fixed. It is normally low as compared to your substitutional law. So I can say that this is what is happening. This is why it is happening. That why solid solubility limit is an issue there. Because in the case of an interstitial solid solution, you find that you have the pure metal here. You have some interstitial side, so you are putting some impurity elements into that. Maybe carbon you are putting into that. But the number of interstitials is limited. The number of interstitials are limited. We have already calculated them. If you remember that we have calculated that for FCC, you have 1 octahedral void per atom, per solvent atom, and otherwise. So there is a limit up to which the solute can be accommodated into your pure metal here. The limit is given by the geometrical limit. When all the interstitial sites are filled, that is what you observe here. All sites have been filled. So once that thing happens, you find that after that you cannot mix it further. You cannot mix it further. So this is the geometrical limit of solubility in interstitial solutions when all the voids have been filled into this. Reason why interstitial solutions cannot show you unlimited solid solubility. Whereas when I refer to the substitutional ones, you have just to replace these ones. So all of them can be replaced. So we will stop it here, and I hope you learned something. We can only try to make you learn. That's what my intent happens to be.